Hello everyone. In this video I'll be doing a review on Bean, the movie, or the Bean movie as it's known, or also the Bean, the ultimate disaster movie. So Bean is a 1997 comedy film directed by the director Mel Smith. It stars of course the well-known, world-famous Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean, and it was written by Richard Curtis and Robin Driscoll. I believe they also wrote the original Mr. Bean TV series along with Rowan Atkinson. And before we go to the story, also I'll mention the other details of the movie. So Bean was produced by Peter Bennett Jones, Tim Bevan, Eric Fellner, Richard Curtis, and it has cinematography by Francis Kenny. It was edited by Christopher Blunden, and it has music by Howard Goodall. The production was done by the production companies Working Title Films and Tiger Aspect Films, and it was distributed by Polygram Film Entertainment. And the release date was on 3rd of July 1997 in Australia and 2nd of August 1997 in the UK. And the film's runtime is 90 minutes, or 1 hour and 30 minutes. So before we go to the story, we shall take a look at the cast members. So starting with the main star of the show, Mr. Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean. We have Peter McNichol as David Langley, who plays the museum's the one who is in charge of the project that Mr. Bean gets involved with. We have John Mills as the chairman. We have Pamela Reed as Alison Langley. We have Harris Yulin as George Grierson. We have Burt Reynolds as General Newton, Richard Grant as Lieutenant Brutus, Larry Drake as Elmer, Sandra Oh as Bernice Schimmel, Danny Goldring as Security Buck, Johnny Galecki as Stingo Willie, Chris Ellis as Detective Butler, Andrew Lawrence as Kevin Langley, Peter Egan as Lord Walton, Peter Capaldi as Gareth, June Brown as Delilah, Peter James as Dr. Rosenblum, Trisha Vesey as Jennifer Langley, and Tom McGowan as Walter Huntley. And also to mention the budget of the Bean movie, the Bean movie was made with a budget of 18 million US dollars. Now let's take a look at the story. So we start off with seeing Mr. Bean. The clumsy Mr. Bean is a security guard at the National Gallery in London. So we see the board members of the museum, board of directors of the museum, talking about Mr. Bean, and we see Mr. Bean sleeping on the job in the room while he's supposed to be guarding the paintings. And we see that he's when one incident where he's late for his job, and he prepares as quickly as he can, and he actually even has no time to drink coffee. So what he does is he accidentally breaks the cup that he uses to drink coffee, and he does not know what to do. So in the moment he pours the coffee in the mouth, and also he pours the milk in the mouth, and lastly he pours the hot water straight into his mouth, and he kind of shakes his head and drinks it and rushes off to work. And so the board members want to actually fire him because they think that he's a very lazy and inefficient and clumsy employee. But the chairman of the board actually likes Mr. Bean and orders them to not fire him and to keep him in the job. So what they do is they select Bean as the representative for the portrait, the $50 million portrait named The Whistler's Mother. It is being transferred to the Grierson Art Gallery in Los Angeles, where it was purchased by the philanthropist General Newton. So they select him as the representative for this transfer. And Grierson's curator David Langley is very impressed by Mr. Bean's profile and offers to accommodate Bean at his home for 2 months. And the family of David are reluctant, but they agree after he manages to persuade them. So we see the airport scene where Mr. Bean arrives, and he's traveling in the travelator, and he tries to mimic the police officers by imagining that he has a gun in his suit jacket, and pulling it out, and the officers notice this, and they think that he actually has a weapon, and so they start to follow him. And Mr. Bean panics, and he doesn't know what to do when the police corner him when he reaches a particular point in the travelator. The police are waiting just nearby, and so he runs the opposite direction, and they chase him throughout the airport, and until they manage to stop him, and they find out that he actually does not have a weapon, and he is just using his fingers to imagine that he has a weapon. So they do a kind of security assessment, and after that they let him go when they find that he is not an active threat to anyone, or any security threat to anyone. And so Mr. Bean arrives at the David Langley's house, and so seeing him and his antics make David Langley's family move out. And eventually David finds out that Bean is not an art expert that he initially thought that he was, a kind of a eccentric genius. And he finds out that Bean actually knows nothing about art, and he's just here because of the situation that they decided to send him, and so he's here. So what happens is Bean accompanies David Langley to when the Whistler's mother portrait arrives to Grierson Art Gallery, so they go to see the painting, and Mr. Bean accidentally destroys the painting because he sneezes on the painting, and he takes out the handkerchief to clean it, and after he steps back, he sees that there's blue ink on the painting, and he looks at his handkerchief and realizes that his pen has actually been leaking, and the ink was on his handkerchief. And so he tries to clean the painting using lacquer thinner, and initially it works. So he sees the ink fading away, and so he puts the lacquer thinner back on the shelf where he picked it up from. But when he turns around, he sees that the painting is actually starting to become disintegrated, the place where he touched it. So it's actually kind of having bubbles, and the face is disappearing. So he tries to wipe the painting again, and he manages to wipe away the face of the head of the portrait, and so he has destroyed the portrait in the act of trying to save it. He has destroyed the portrait even more. So what he does is he puts the portrait back in the room where he picked it up from, and David Langley finds out that he has destroyed this portrait, and both of them are very upset, and they go to a bar and get drunk because David Langley knows that he is going to lose his job when the staff and eventually find out what has happened, and Mr. Bean also knows that he probably will be also fired and blamed for doing this. But what he does is Mr. Bean decides to spring into action. So he sneaks into the gallery late at night after it is closed, and he does a series of activities to confuse the security guard and to make him leave the security room, and he manages to replace the original painting with a poster of the portrait. And the next day, Bean gives a speech at the presentation of the painting. So everyone has bought about it that the painting is actually real, so nobody realizes that it's actually a fake copy and that is actually just a poster of the original painting. So he gives a rousing speech which wins him a lot of applause. And after that, David is informed that his daughter has gotten into an accident, and he rushes to the hospital. And so Bean also follows, and while wandering around the hospital, Bean is mistaken for a surgeon, and he ends up saving Brutus's life. So Brutus is the detective who investigated him during the airport incident. So he's the airport officer, the police officer who investigated him. He ends up saving Brutus's life by removing the bullet from his body. And he also manages to wake Jennifer up. Jennifer, who is David Langley's daughter, he manages to wake her up when he shocks himself with the instrument, I'm not sure what it's called, the device to try and revive the person. And he accidentally shocks himself, and he flies and lands on top of her, which makes her jerk and sit up and come back to consciousness. So she had lost consciousness, and when Bean fell onto her, she regained consciousness and she sat up. And so David and Allison being David Langley's wife, so David and Allison are very thankful to Mr. Bean, and they are surprised when they find out. So Mr. Bean pulls down his mask, and they are surprised when they find out, oh, it is Mr. Bean who has saved their daughter. So they allow him to stay for 1 more week in exchange, and Bean spends quality time with David and his family. So we see scenes where Bean is traveling around the attractions around Los Angeles, and we see him doing some funny stuff over here. And so he spends some quality time with the family before David sends him off to the airport, where he then returns to London. And the final scene, we see Bean going to sleep in his bedroom, which is decorated with the photos of his time in LA. And also we see that he has put the original Whistler's Mother painting. So Mr. Bean actually drew over the painting in his own style, and we see that funny looking face that he tried to repair the painting, and we see the funny looking face on Whistler's Mother painting, and he has actually brought it back with him back to London. And so the movie ends with that scene. Now let's look at the commercial success of Bean. So the Bean movie grossed $251.2 million at the box office. So it was commercially it was a huge, massive success. But despite that, it received mixed reviews from critics. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 43% approval rating. So that means the average of 5.3 out of 10. And on Metacritic, it has 52 out of 100. So the critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes says that Bean boasts a terrifically talented physical comedian in the title role, but his constant mugging and silly slapstick quickly wear thin. And Robert Ebert, so this is a review that I found on the Wikipedia page. So the critic Robert Ebert had said he had given the movie 2.5 out of 4 stars, and he said that many moments that were very funny, but he criticized the film's runtime of 90 minutes, saying that it was too long, and at an hour Bean would have been non-stop laughs, but then they added 30 minutes of stops. So the legacy of the Bean character. So Bean has a standalone sequel named Mr. Bean's Holiday, which was released in 2007. So for me, my experience watching Bean, so I've watched the movie when I was a young child, and I've watched it many times over actually, when they have shown it on TV, and also some scenes on YouTube, and also when I have seen the video on demand on certain platforms. So I've seen the movie many times, and it is a very entertaining movie, a very jolly movie overall, which has some emotional scenes in between. But overall, it is a laugh. It is a meant for those who want to relieve their mind and laugh at something. It is a very laugh riot, if may say so. From start to finish, you find many moments that are very amusing, and you find it very hard to control your laughter. So if you are looking for something, a short movie, 1 hour and 30 minutes, and you're looking for a lot of laughs, then this is a movie that you definitely should check out if you haven't watched the movie already. So what do you think about the Bean movie? Have you watched the movie yet? What are your comments and what are your feedback about the movie? And what is your favorite moments from the movie? Do let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching this video. And also, if you like this video and if you like my content, then give this video a like and share the video, and do subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not done so. So thank you for watching, and until the next video, take care and goodbye.